Would you join me in a moment of prayer, please? Spirit of the living God, fall afresh on us. Spirit of the living God, fall afresh on us. Melt us, mold us, fill us, use us. Spirit of the living God, fall afresh. Boy, I'm proud of you without the cheat notes today, huh? I'm impressed. Very good. Why didn't Herod, King Herod, go with the Magi to Bethlehem? What would have happened? What would have happened if he had? Why didn't Herod go with the Magi? Now Matthew says that King Herod was greatly troubled when he heard the news of a newborn king. Now come on. Herod? Scared? Are we talking about the same Herod? Herod the Great? Google him. Find out what this guy did. This guy was so paranoid, he went and assassinated his entire family because he was afraid they're going to steal the throne. Herod's afraid? Isn't this the same guy who went and acted genocide against all 2-year-olds and below? He's scared? Come on, give me a break. Friends, I think the reason why he didn't want to go to Bethlehem is maybe, just maybe, he might have to change the direction of his life. He might not be able to be so paranoid. He might not be so jealous. Herod wasn't afraid of a little baby. He was afraid what that baby might do to the direction of his life. Friends, why do women and men fear getting closer to God? Why do women and men fear having a closer relationship with Jesus? Maybe, just maybe, people fear that getting too close to Jesus might change the direction of their life. Duh. Have you ever known somebody whose life was going totally in the wrong direction and they rediscover Jesus? And it's just amazing that it's like day and night. The only thing that scares us sometimes is when they get super fanatical about their newfound religion. You know, anything that we do is below dignity. You know, ever meet somebody who was a smoker and then gets converted? They make life hell for everybody else. Why was King Herod troubled about the news of a newborn king? Was he really afraid of losing his power? I don't think so. Or was Herod afraid that he might have to change the direction of his life? Now, don't you like what Matthew does today? Matthew compares two people's encounter with Jesus. Here's Herod. Herod's afraid to go to Bethlehem because I think that he knows a little bit that this Messiah is going to be a little bit more powerful than just a ruler. He might want to change the direction of our lives. And what does Matthew do? Matthew contrasts Herod's reluctance with the Magi's acceptance. Here are the Magi. These are guys who've traveled a far distance at great expense, and they're eager to encounter this newborn King of the Jews, and they don't care what consequences might occur. Isn't that neat what Matthew is doing? Matthew is presenting to us the child in Bethlehem and showing us the response. Now, I'm sure you're clever enough to figure this out, that Matthew is really giving you like the overture to the gospel. In fact, the infancy narratives are an overture to the great symphony called the gospel. And so the themes that you're going to see throughout the gospel, we're seeing now. And we're going to see that there's going to be people that will accept Jesus. There's going to be people that will reject Jesus. We're seeing it in this gospel today. But the Magi aren't afraid. In fact, the Magi do something. The Magi do something extraordinary in today's gospel that you and I probably have heard 1,000 times, but it didn't register. Because you and I need to know one important fact. We need to know if we were going to meet a king in the time of Jesus, what was the proper etiquette? If you were to meet a king in the time of Jesus, the proper etiquette is for you to kneel before them. When the Magi got their private audience with Herod, they would have knelt before King Herod because he's the king. Are you with me on this? Very important. Very important to know that the protocol before a king at the time of Jesus was to kneel. Now, let's take a look at what the Magi do to the King of the Jews, to Jesus. Do they kneel? No, they don't kneel. But Matthew does tell us their posture. Friends, this is critical to the story. This is critical to an understanding of maybe how we are to respond as well. Let me read to you the way Matthew describes it. On entering the house, the Magi saw the child with Mary, his mother. They prostrated themselves and did him homage. I asked a 90-year-old guy once if he knew what prostration was. He said, yes, I had it operated on 3 years ago. I didn't understand that. Prostration is laying flat on your face in total surrender and homage. Friends, you knelt before kings. You prostrated before God. Now let me help you make a connection of the dots here. The Magi go to encounter the king. They're probably already in the kneeling mode. They encounter Jesus. Something overwhelms them, and instead of kneeling before a king, they prostrate before their God. 1, 2, 3. Ooh. Interesting, huh? Isn't that neat? The Magi don't kneel before a king. They prostrate before their God. Maybe, just maybe, today, or sometime during the Christmas season, we could be celebrating the feast of King Herod the Great. If he had just gone to Bethlehem, today we might be celebrating the feast of Saint King Henry, the feast of King Herod the Great. We might even have another king there. There'd be 4 kings there. And when one of them we would call Herod. Now we began our Christmas journey by asking a question. Have you found Jesus yet? That's the question I've been asking all during the Christmas season. Have you found Jesus yet? How would Herod answer it? Yes, I have found Jesus. But I was afraid of the consequences to my life to go and see him. But I know where he was. He's in Bethlehem. Ask the question to the Magi, have you found Jesus yet? Yes, we have. We found him in Bethlehem. And we recognized him more than a king. We prostrated before him as God. And friends, what does Matthew tell us of the consequences of that encounter? There again, Matthew says something that we probably heard a million times, but maybe it didn't register. See, they encountered Jesus. And then it says they went home by a different route. What's that saying? The way they came is no longer open to them. They're not going to go back to the past. They're going to make a brand new future. That cool? Here we are on the second to the last Sunday of Christmas. Our society is already packed up and ready to go. Have you seen? There's a great commercial by Verizon. This is an incredible commercial. Here's this guy looking at all the neat gifts he got at Christmas time from Verizon. And they're saying you can still get these gifts at Verizon. But he looks over into the corner and his tree is missing. And there's a bunch of needles. So he runs out into his yard, and what's happening? All the neighbors are tearing down Christmas. Okay? What does he do? He takes the tree from the curb and he's pulling it back into the house, and he's saying to everybody, I'm no quitter. I'm no quitter. Now, I think that's brilliant. He's not a quitter to Christmas season. Neither should we. Neither should we. The church presents us 2 more Sundays to find Jesus and to respond to him. Today, Matthew is giving us 2 ways to respond. Herod's way or the Magi way. It is our choice. We are not going to be forced. But what happens, Matthew gives us a selection. Herod's response, the Magi response. Now, one more thing Matthew puts into his gospel. I just love it when you discover this stuff. You know what I mean? Do you get excited like I do? Humor me. Oh yeah, Father. Well, prostration is not something you see every day, right? What does Matthew do? At the start of his gospel that we heard today, chapter 2, verse 11, we see the Magi prostrating before Jesus. Guess what happens at the end of his gospel? Chapter 26, verse 39. We are in the Garden of Gethsemane. And how is Jesus praying? On his knees? On his feet? No. Matthew says Jesus had prostrated himself in praying to the Father. The Magi surrender to Jesus at his birth. And Jesus is surrendering to the Father. Not my will, but thine be done. Friends, do you think this is a coincidence? Or did Matthew plan it this way? Did Matthew plan it that way? Now, finding Jesus, that's the easy part. Responding to Jesus with our whole lives, like the Magi, now that's the work of Christmas. That we carry on long after the manger scenes are popped away. Friends, finding Jesus, that's the easy part. That's the easy part. Finding Jesus. But responding to Jesus with our words, thoughts, or actions, like the Magi did. Now that's the work of Christmas that continues long after the manger scenes are put away. Amen?
Amen.